Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. One of the optional extensions that Universal Audio is offering for their Luna digital recording system is the Neve Summing extension. The Neve Summing extension imparts the characteristics of a vintage Series 80 analog mixing console from Neve onto your mixes. Now, this isn't a plugin. It's actually an integral part of the Luna software. When you purchase, there's nothing to download or install. You simply activate the extension, and it becomes available for you to use on the buses inside your mixing console. The classic Neve consoles are renowned for their full, articulate sound with good definition and pleasant, rich vibe. These vintage analog desks use transformers on their inputs and outputs, as well as the iconic 1272 bus amplifiers, all of which contributed to a signature color, depth, and harmonic enhancement to signals that pass through. We've all heard the sound of these consoles a million times, and now you can bring that same vibe to your mixes in Luna. Universal Audio partnered with AMS Neve to create the Luna recording system Neve Summing extension. Here's how it works. Neve Summing can be added to buses in the main stereo output on Luna's mixing console. While you might assume that all you're doing is adding tone shaping and maybe some harmonic distortion to the mix, far more than that is going on here. Universal Audio spent more than 2 years dissecting multiple vintage Neve 80 series consoles and their components. The resulting Neve Summing extension emulates all the characteristics of those consoles, including complex nonlinearities, the console fader taper, pan laws, clipping characteristics, dynamic response, and much more. Though the controls on the Neve Summing extension are very simple, what's happening under the hood is quite complex. For example, when you turn on Neve Summing on a bus, the fader and pan characteristics actually change to accurately emulate how an analog Neve console bus worked. Using Neve Summing is very simple. Just create a bus, route tracks through it, and turn on summing. The controls are easy to use, just dial in to taste. It's all about experimenting to find what you like best. The HR, or headroom knob, increases or decreases the amount of headroom from 4 dB to 28 dB in 4 dB steps, which allows you to control the saturation on that bus. Straight up at 12 o'clock, the default is 16 dB. I find this is a great starting point. Note that the higher the setting, the more headroom, and therefore the cleaner the sound you have. You can also change the impedance of the 1272 line amplifier emulation from 300 ohms to 1200 ohms. This affects both the tone and the level, and it can make a huge difference. The trim control adjusts the input level that feeds into the 1272 line amplifier. And bypass, of course, turns off the signal processing. By holding the Option key while bypassing one bus's summing, you can bypass all of them simultaneously. You can also group buses to adjust the controls on more than one at once. Let's take a listen. I've got a large session here, and I've routed different groups of tracks within the mix to buses, basically creating submixes. I've got drums going through one bus, melody and harmony, rhythm guitars, keys, horns, and so on going through other buses. I've enabled Neve Summing on all the buses as well as on the main stereo output. There's no EQ, no compression, and no effects. It's just a dry, raw mix. Let's listen as I play the mix and bypass and activate all the Neve Summing buses simultaneously. I encourage you to listen through good headphones or studio monitors so you can really hear the effect. How much you'll hear depends on what's playing in the mix and how hard it's hitting the summing, so I'll let it play through a few sections of the song. Focus your attention on the upper harmonics and the saxophone and guitars, the stereo spread, the attack on the drums and cymbals, and so on. To my ears, I'm hearing more presence, a defined top end, increased width, and a lower mid-range richness when the Neve Summing is active. It's a subtle effect, but it really gives even a raw mix like this more of a finished quality. The characteristics of a vintage analog Series 80 console from Neve are so desirable, and now with Universal Audio's Neve Summing extension, you can apply those same characteristics to your mixes. I highly recommend that you check it out. If you have questions about anything you've seen in this video, or about any of Universal Audio's products, contact your Sweetwater sales engineer or visit sweetwater.com. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.